What would you do if the person you trusted most started acting differently? It began with small things: coffee runs at odd hours, secretive texts, vague excuses. But those little changes planted seeds of doubt that wouldn't stop growing. I found myself questioning everything: her actions, her words, and even our relationship. Was I overthinking? Or was there something she wasn't telling me? This isn't just a story about suspicion. It's about the cracks that form when trust begins to waver, and the tough choices we face when the truth feels just out of reach. It started small, almost insignificant. A change in routine that I brushed off at first. My wife, who used to savor her coffee at home, suddenly developed a habit of stepping out to grab some every other day. Odd, right? Especially since we have a coffee machine that she once called her pride and joy. The trips weren't long, but there was something peculiar about her timing. Always around the same hour, always alone. At first, I chalked it up to needing a break. Everyone needs their space, I told myself. But then there were the smiles when she returned, brighter than usual, and a quick comment about how she'd run into a friend. Maybe it was harmless, maybe, but the shifts didn't stop there. Her phone became her shadow, always in her hand or tucked into her pocket, even in moments when it never used to be. My mind began to wander, and with it came the whispers of doubt. Was it just coffee she was after, or was there something, someone else? Each morning as she got ready, I caught myself watching her. Not with admiration as I used to, but with a growing sense of unease. It was in the small things. A subtle excitement as she tied her hair, or the care she took in choosing her shoes. The thought lingered, unspoken yet heavy. What was waiting for her out there? One afternoon, as she left for another one of her coffee runs, I decided to step out for some air. It was a coincidence, really, that I saw her paused at the edge of the driveway, her phone in hand. She wasn't texting like she normally did, with quick, casual flicks of her thumbs. This was different. Her body angled away, her expression focused, as if the screen held something she wasn't ready to share. I didn't say anything then. But later that evening, while we sat on the couch, I noticed it again. Her phone rested against her leg, tilted just enough so I couldn't see. A text would come in, and she'd swipe the screen like a reflex, quickly typing something before flipping the phone face down. It wasn't the action itself that made me uneasy. It was her demeanor, guarded, intentional. I thought about asking her directly, but I hesitated. Instead, I leaned in slightly, trying to catch a glimpse of the notifications. She shifted immediately, standing to grab a drink from the kitchen. That quick, the moment was gone. The doubt was no longer a whisper. It was loud, insistent. Could a coffee break really be so private that it needed secrecy? Or was this just my mind spiraling, making a mountain out of a molehill? My gut told me otherwise, but I still hoped it was nothing. Hope, however, can be dangerous when paired with suspicion. When I finally gathered the courage to ask her about the sudden outings, her response was unexpected. She didn't seem startled or annoyed, just prepared. "I just need some time alone," she said, her tone calm, almost rehearsed. "You know how overwhelming life can get." It was the kind of answer that could disarm a casual question, but I wasn't asking casually. I pressed gently, trying to sound more curious than concerned. "What's been so overwhelming lately?" She shrugged, avoiding my gaze, and muttered something about needing space to clear her head. That wasn't like her. In all the years we'd been together, she'd never needed to clear her head over a cup of coffee somewhere else. Her defensiveness became more apparent when I mentioned the frequency of her trips. "Why does it matter?" she asked, a slight edge creeping into her voice. It wasn't outright anger, but it was enough to catch me off guard. I wasn't accusing her of anything, just trying to understand. So why did it feel like she was already on the defensive? Later that night, as I replayed the conversation in my mind, it struck me. Her words weren't reassuring, and her actions didn't align with the person I thought I knew. The uncertainty was beginning to feel like a wall between us, and every answer she gave only seemed to add another brick. It didn't make sense. There was a perfectly good coffee shop just 5 minutes away from our house, one we used to visit together. So why was she driving across town for her alone time? I decided to look up the place she mentioned, hoping for some clarity. What I found only deepened the mystery. Conversations that used to flow so easily now felt strained. I found myself overanalyzing her every word, trying to decipher meaning where there might not have been any. And when she didn't answer immediately, when she seemed distracted or distant, I couldn't help but wonder who or what was occupying her thoughts. It wasn't just about the trips anymore, it was about us. I started noticing changes in myself too. I wasn't sleeping well. My appetite had vanished. Every time I looked at her, I wanted to ask questions I wasn't sure I wanted the answers to. It felt like I was living in a fog, unable to see clearly but too afraid to open my eyes completely. Was it paranoia, or was it my gut telling me something was truly wrong? The worst part was the helplessness. I wanted to believe in her, to believe in us. But how could I, when every instinct screamed that something was off? Trust felt like a fragile thread, fraying with each passing moment, and the harder I tried to hold on, the more it seemed to slip away. It wasn't just my imagination anymore. Her behavior was different, undeniably so. I suggested we go to the cafe together one morning, hoping to make it a light-hearted gesture. Her reaction was immediate and sharp, like I'd touched a nerve. "Why would you want to come?" she asked, her tone teetering between confusion and irritation. I tried brushing it off, saying it could be fun, but she didn't bite. Instead, she dismissed the idea altogether, claiming it was her me time and not something she wanted to share. That response lingered, stinging more than I expected. What was so private about a coffee run, and why did the idea of me being there unsettle her? Even when I casually asked what she liked about the place, her answers were vague, evasive. She'd talk about how it was cozy, how the coffee was good, but there was no passion behind her words, no real connection to the story she was trying to sell. It felt rehearsed, like she was hiding something just beneath the surface. The little things started to pile up. Her phone always face down, her quick exits from the room whenever it buzzed, the way her shoulders stiffened when I lingered too close while she was texting. Each moment on its own might have meant nothing, but together they painted a picture I didn't want to see. The weight of it all was crushing. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't enjoy the little moments that used to make life feel normal. Every time I looked at her, I saw the woman I loved, but also the growing distance between us. It was like staring across a canyon, shouting questions that only echoed back at me. I tried to convince myself to let it go, to give her the benefit of the doubt. But trust isn't something you can force when it's been shaken. And with every unanswered question, my imagination filled in the gaps. I hated it, this version of myself that doubted, second-guessed, and felt so small. Even in the quiet moments, when she smiled or laughed, I couldn't shake the unease. Was it real? Or was it a mask? I started to envy the man I used to be, the one who trusted her implicitly, who didn't feel this gnawing need to analyze every interaction. I wanted that version of us back, but I wasn't sure it was possible. As much as I wanted to confront her, I hesitated. What if I was wrong? What if my accusations tore us apart unnecessarily? But what if I was right? The questions circled endlessly, leaving me caught in a loop of fear and doubt. Something had to give. I just didn't know what or when. It finally dawned on me. This spiral of suspicion and doubt wasn't sustainable. I couldn't keep living like this, questioning every word, every move, every silence. What we lacked more than anything else was clarity. A conversation where everything was laid bare, no evasion, no defensiveness, just honesty. But the thought of starting that dialogue terrified me. I wondered how to bring it up without sounding accusatory. How do you say, "I feel like you're keeping something from me," without triggering walls to go up? I knew the words had to be careful, measured, because one wrong step could make everything worse. Still, I couldn't ignore the growing urgency to address the widening gap between us. Relationships thrive on trust, but they also require communication. Real communication, not just surface-level exchanges. I realized we hadn't had one of those heart-to-hearts in a long time. What if that was the root of everything? Maybe her need for me time wasn't betrayal, but her way of asking for something she couldn't articulate. Or maybe I was grasping at straws to avoid facing the worst. As I sat there going over the words I might say, one thing became clear. No matter how scary it was, the truth, whatever it turned out to be, was better than this limbo. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about finding a way back to myself, whether with her or without her.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.